Hey friends, first of all, I want to thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, then go ahead and do so right now so that you can stay up to date on all the different things that are happening, whether it be music, whether it be messages, or just any updates. I don't want you to miss a thing. Today, I wanted to share a message with you that I did a while back. I think that it was um, overwhelming to me when I had tried on a particular outfit and realized that I could not wear it anymore. And I was sad because I didn't recognize that I had outgrown it uh, in ways of which I was not wanting to admit. And though that's difficult as it relates to clothing, to our ego, there are moments in our life that we realize that we've outgrown some seasons and also versions of ourselves. And as exciting as it is to understand that we have grown, it is sometimes challenging because we realize that what we have grown into is not as familiar as who we used to be. This message is called I've Outgrown It. Let's tune in.
I've outgrown it. So, um, I have a suit that is well made. And there is, first of all, before we get into that, I want to thank Deacon Kenroy and Mary for putting our signage on our screen. Brandon, can you get my drink real quick? Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate them for putting our signage there. So, thank you, Bishop Brown. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So we have I have this suit, and I noticed something, Tyrone, that something changed. That it wasn't the suit was exactly the same, but I wasn't. Where some areas of me had shifted and some places had grown. And what used to fit perfectly now pulled in places that it wasn't supposed to pull. And what would normally close doesn't close anymore. So I gave that suit to my son, and he wears it and wore it perfectly. And the way he wears it is how I used to wear it. Don't you see how beautiful that was? I was probably, I guess, I don't know, 29 or something at that time when I wore it. And all right, all right, all right. And I didn't realize that my 46-year-old version couldn't fit in my 29-year-old version suit. All right. And before we go further, the suit isn't bad. The suit was never bad, Jessica. The fabric isn't defective. The tailor didn't make a mistake. But the fabric had a design capacity that it could only handle so much. And my body had made a decision that it was going to grow beyond the capacity of the fabric. Well, the suit didn't fail me, I just outgrew it. And I want to talk to everybody in this room who you're in a season where you feel like you've outgrown some stuff. And I want to make your announcement today is that you're not broken and you're not backsliding and you're not losing your mind. You've just outgrown it. You tell someone around you, I just outgrew it. And when we look at this scripture, verse 13, he says, until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, so that we may no longer be children tossed to and fro by the waves and carried about every wind and doctrine, by human cunning, by craftiness and deceitful schemes. Rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ. That 13 says, until, someone say until. So I asked myself, Special K, I said, how long is until? And that is a word that we will sometimes rush past, because until is not a casual word. Until is a timeline word. It is a word that assumes a process is underway, that the end has not yet arrived, and that what was happening in the middle is necessary and intentional. The Greek word until, it carries a weight of all the way up to the point of. It implies a duration. It implies that something is actively happening over an extended and undetermined point of time, and it will not stop until the designated destination is reached. Like there is a process happening. Someone say it's a process happening. And Paul is basically saying the growing does not stop. Not next year, not when you finish the Bible study plan, not when you become a deacon or an elder or a leader or a pastor or a candlestick maker, not when you've been saved for 30 years. The process of growing into the fullness of Christ is a lifelong, ongoing, unceasing work, and until tells us that we have not arrived yet. So I want to take a poll right here and ask how many of you all feel you've arrived yet? Because this means that the suit will keep needing to be changed. That every time you think you've stepped into your comfortable fit, God's growth in you is already working towards your next expansion. Until is not discouraging. Until is actually freeing. It releases you from the pressure of performing a finished product. It says you are still in process, and that is exactly where you are supposed to be. But here's the destination that until is pointed towards. Paul identifies 3 progressive markers of what mature arrival looks like. Point number 1, until the unity of faith and the knowledge of the Son of God. That is not about doctrinal agreement. The word knowledge, someone say knowledge, is a Greek word by which we get epignosis. That means it is not surface level awareness. This is full, precise, experiential knowledge. Say it again. It is not the kind of knowing that comes from reading about someone. It is not about that, but it is from sustained, transformational encounter with them. Paul is saying that maturity produces a people who know Christ in a deep and intimate way. Not just you read about him, not just you sang about him, but you have a relationship with God. You have a relationship with Christ. And I'm here to say, unfortunately, there are many people who are doing second-hand information, second-hand relationship with a Christ you don't know personally, but you've heard about him. So you find out how much of a relationship you have with Christ when you go through a trial. When you go through a trial, when you go through a situation, you find out, is he your grandmama's God or is he your God? But here he's saying you've got to have an experience with Christ that is not based on Sunday, it's not based on Bible study, it's not based on Bible plans, it's not based on live streaming, it's not based on what so-and-so and such-and-much said. It is about your own personal relationship. Come on, Tony, to know you. I want to know you. Somebody say, I want to know God for myself. Not what you said about him. I know him as a healer, not because I saw somebody else got healed, but because he healed me. I know him as a provider, not because I saw him provide for somebody else, but because he provided for me. Anybody in the room says, I want to know God for myself. Secondly, he says, to mature manhood. This phrase, this Greek word, means complete, fully developed man. The word is teleon, which comes from telos, which means end, purpose, goal fully realized. And this manhood is not about gender. It's about complete personhood. A fully realized, fully developed human being who has reached the purpose for which they were created. Paul is saying maturity is when you become the full version of who God designed you to be. And I want to ask you, are you stunted? Are you partial? Are you incomplete? Or are you the full expression of who God called you to be? And if you're asking people for permission to become, you're incomplete. You're stunted. Because the measure of growth was never based on other people's permission. It was based on the stature of Christ. Thirdly, he says, and this is where we got to slow down. He says, to the measure, someone say measure. To the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Well, Donna, when I saw the word measure, I thought that is a mathematical term. The word measure in the original Greek word is where we get the word metron. And it's not a poetic, approximate, general kind of word. Metron is a mathematical and architectural term. Can I teach this? It describes a fixed, precise, calculated standard of measurement, a specific unit, a determined quantity, an exact mark. And this is where we get the word metric. It is where we get meter. When an architect draws a blueprint, they are working in metron. Y'all with me, class? When a builder lays a foundation, they are measuring against metron. There is no guessing. There is no approximation. There is a standard. Someone say standard. And everything is measured against the standard. So Paul pairs metron with those two words, and it intensifies it. He says stature, which is akila, is a Greek word which refers to full body development. Can I break down every single word you read? It is the picture of someone who has grown to their complete intended physical height and form. Not still a child, not partially formed, but fully arrived at what they were always supposed to become. And the word fullness, as we're breaking down words, is a Greek word by which we get complete capacity. Filled to its maximum, not lacking, nothing left out, nothing left out. Everything was supposed to be present, is present at its full measure. So when Paul says, thank you, Lord, the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, he is stacking three architectural, mathematical, and developmental words on top of each other to say it's not random. This is precise. Put this on the screen real quick. There is a precise, divinely calculated, spiritually determined standard. And that standard is Christ in his complete form. And your entire life has been engineered by God to grow you until you match that exact measurement. Can I say that one more time? There is a precise, divinely calculated, spiritually determined standard. And that standard is church. And that standard is your mama. That standard is the Republican Party. That standard is Christ in his complete form. And your entire life has been engineered by your peers. Your entire life has been engineered by your serving in the church. Your entire life has been engineered by your tithes. Your entire life, but some of y'all miss that because you don't do it. Your entire life has been engineered by God to grow until you match the exact measurement. What that means is everything happening in your life is pre-calculated. It's determined and precise. God is not making random decisions about your life. He has measured how long it will take you to reach your entire purpose. He has measured what it takes for you to become what God would have for you to be. It's an exact measurement. It is not random. That's why he said, if I got a house, a mansion, and if it were not so, I wouldn't have told you. I measured it. The blueprint, the architect has already built it. Someone say this is an exact measurement. You were not designed, hear this, church, I'm trying to free somebody. You were not designed for a small suit. You were designed for the fullness of Christ. And every season of growth, every trial that stretches you, every truth that challenges your comfort, every relationship that refines your character, all of it, God is taking your measurements against the standard of his son. Preaching better than y'all sounding? The suit you're in right now is not your final fitting. You have a metron, a divine, precise, calculated destiny, and it is bigger than where you currently are. Will you go down your road and say, I'm bigger than where I am right now? I'm bigger. And one of the most disorienting things in spiritual growth is that you don't always know you've outgrown something until you try to put it back on. You go back to your own mindset and it pulls. You go back to old conversations and something feels off. You go back to an old habit and it doesn't satisfy you the way it used to. You go back to the same old version of worship you've always done, and now it feels hollow. And instead of celebrating growth, most people panic because you think something's wrong with you. And to be honest, you are not the only one who thinks something's wrong with you. Most of your people who are used to feel familiarity and you are becoming unfamiliar think you're off too. And this is what happens. Sometimes they are the community because they have grown accustomed to you not growing. It's a sad thing for us to say I got what I need to grow and never grow. And it's one thing to make a confession, it's another thing to have a transformation. When something familiar in you shifts, it's not only unfamiliar to you, but it's unknown to everything connected to the familiar version that everyone has become comfortable with. Don't get quiet, don't leave me. The thing about outgrowing something is that you don't always realize how attached you've been to remain who you've always been until who you've always been no longer fits who God is calling you to be. Tell someone the suit doesn't fit anymore. So here are a few things I want to tell you, Cecilia. Hope that it'll help you, and we'll go have coffee. Number one, outgrowing something doesn't mean it was ever bad. And this is critical because people interpret discomfort as condemnation. But when a toddler outgrows a onesie, we don't throw a funeral for the onesie. We celebrate the child. So Paul is saying in Ephesians 4 that the things of childhood he's not saying anything wrong about it. He's saying it was seasonal. 1 Corinthians last week, 13:11 says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish things. He didn't say childish things were evil. He just said they were childish. And manhood demands that you release it. All right. Growing up demands that you release some childish ways. Come on. Will you tell somebody you got to release some stuff? Toys in the hand of my brother or sister who's young, 10 years and younger, that's cool. But a grown man with no job sitting around playing games all day is not cute. What you do all day, I gamed. Unless you are getting paid for the games you play. All right, let's get out of that. That hurt some people's feelings. The suit was quality fabric, excellent craftsmanship, but my body made a decision. I cannot be contained by what was designed for a smaller version of me. And there are systems you've been in, not bad systems, but systems designed for a season that cannot contain the version of you that God is building. There are mindsets, not sinful mindsets, but limited mindsets that suited who you were, but restrict who you're becoming. Am I talking to anybody here? There are relationships, routines, and even religious structures that once fit beautifully, but now they pull in places they shouldn't pull. And hear this. Outgrowing is not a sin. It's a sign. It's not a sin. It's just a sign. Tell somebody it's just a sign. It's a sign. And this is what's important. We're going to keep going. 15 minutes, I'm done. Why does growth matter? Glad you asked me. Verse 14 says, so that we may no longer be children, tossed to and fro by the waves and carried about by every wind of doctrine, by human cunning, by craftiness and deceitful schemes. Paul gives us a vivid, layered picture here, and every layer deserves attention. Tossed to and fro by waves. Can I break that down? The word for tossed is the image of a small vessel caught in a violent open water. It has no anchor. It has no rudder. It has no direction. Hear this, Brian. Thank you for saying it. Just reactive motion. So whatever the water does, the boat does. The boat has no independent trajectory. It is entirely at the mercy of whatever force is moving it around. And there are some of you, you don't even know yourself because whatever they say is what you believe. You are moved by every wave, every wind, every applause, every person who likes your status. You are moved all the way around. You have no anchor. You have no rudder. You have no place. You are just moving around. And this picture is a picture of an immature believer. Their theology shifts depending on what post their popular social media influencer post. Their conviction changes based on who's on the flyer of their favorite conference. Their spiritual temperature rises and falls based on the emotional climate of the shade room. They are not anchored by the metron. They are just reactive, carried about by every wind of doctrine. Preach, Mario Jamil Radford. I will. The wind metaphor intensifies it because waves come from below, the currents beneath the surface. But wind comes from every direction at once, and you cannot predict it. It changes suddenly, violently, and without warning. So Paul uses the word every, which means this is not one specific false teaching. It is about susceptibility to any teaching that sounds good, that feels right, or comes from a voice that has enough confidence behind it. What that means is, if it's popular, I think I should believe it. And the immature believer cannot discern because they have not grown into the epignosis. Epignosis is the experiential connection with God. Let me tell you this. As long as I teach on some of your levels, you will never grow to God's level. So for some, God is trying to raise you up, but you're still hooked on elementary. And God is saying it's time for you to come up, because epignosis is that I got to have a real relationship with God. Not based on what my pastor says, not based on what they said, but I know God for myself. Someone said, I got to know him for myself. But if you're immature, you are not able to discern the difference. Deep knowledge of Christ that gives you the ability to test what you hear against something popular. By human cunningness. The Greek word here comes from the word that some of you know, dice gaming. It was a term used to describe tricks and manipulations of a cheating gambler. It appears to be playing by the rules, but has rigged the game in their favor without you knowing. It is a deliberate deception wrapped up in the appearance of fairness by craftiness and deceitful schemes. The word craftiness means a readiness to do anything. It means you have no moral limits. It means you have no ethical boundaries. It means whatever it takes to accomplish deception, I participate in it. And schemes, it means where the word schemes comes from the Greek word methotheoa, which means the word method. It describes systematic, calculated, strategic plan designed to lead someone astray through a well-organized process. We good, Consuelo? We good. Say it again. The method is it's a calculated, systematic, strategic plan to lead you astray through a well-organized process. I'm trying to tell y'all something. The devil is systemic. It's not random. It's this is how some of you miss it. Because it's a well-organized plan. I hate to say it this way. The devil is not as messy as some of you. Mess you can sniff out. Strategy you have to study. And that's where many of you are getting tripped, because all you know is mess. And you're used to mess. You sniff it out. You know that. but you have not taken the time to study strategy. So because you don't study strategy, you get tripped up over or they said in slavery, if you put it in a book, they'll never know it. If I get elected, you'll never have to vote again. Because according to the book of Project 25, everything that was written is being done. So everybody is like, I didn't see it coming. You didn't read it. Because you were so concerned about the TikTok things and the Instagram reels that if we can capture you with entertainment, we will never allow you to read strategy. So now a whole population, not just black and brown, but poor whites, are suffering because it was written and you never read it. Because you are afraid of voting for a woman. Because she didn't have long enough time to campaign. And it hasn't even taken 4 years for them to reverse everything that your parents and your grandparents and your grandmothers and everybody has fought for and ran for and marched for. And you want to argue over just a few days of campaigning and let somebody come in there with not a suit on, not a white robe anymore, and not a hood anymore, but a suit to push you back. You couldn't smell the mess, but the strategy was written, and people are losing their jobs. People had good income and was fighting for people who couldn't fight for themselves. Now they're saying that program is not even necessary because it does not benefit the rich. It's not a new strategy, I want to tell you. You got to go all the way back to Genesis 1, third chapter and verse 1. It says, now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, did God actually say, you shall not eat of the tree in the garden? The Amplified Bible says it this way. The serpent was more crafty, subtle, skilled in deceit than any living creature of the field which the Lord God had made. And the serpent, Satan, said to the woman, can it really be that God has said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden? It's the very same vocabulary at work. Hear this, Raven. The serpent didn't attack Eve with brute force. He didn't come with obvious evil. He came with a question. He came with a refrain. He came with something that sounded like wisdom. Did God actually say? And he used the question to destabilize what she knew. Notice this. She was not spiritually empty. She had a relationship with God. She had his word. She had his presence. She was just immature. She had not yet grown into full discernment that would have allowed her to recognize the systemic scheme underneath the surface of the conversation. So Paul is saying in Ephesians 4, the enemy's strategy hasn't changed. He still works through questions that sound reasonable.
So did you say ouch a few times? I did too. And I was delivering the message. But what I want you to be encouraged in is knowing that whatever level you're at, you can still grow from that particular place. So thank you for tuning in today and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And don't forget, the Leaders Pour is coming up in November. So if you have not registered, make sure you register. Thank you for your partnership. For those of you who are partners with our ministry and with the different things of which I do, I appreciate you so much, and I don't take it for granted. So subscribe so you can stay notified on everything that's coming up. Have some other things that's coming soon. Stay tuned.